Okay, we are live. Welcome everyone to NFA Live. No Ferraris anymore live. I am joined by my good friends Rob from Digital Asset News. Rob, welcome.
Hello, everybody.
And also Ben from Into the Cryptoverse. Ben, good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
Ben, you've got a shirt on. This is quite unusual. I don't remember a previous NFA Live where you had where you were sporting a collar.
Right, normally I don't wear shirts.
Is today a special occasion? Is there something we need to know about?
I just have some meetings later, so yeah, that's about it. Yeah, so I actually have to dress up like an adult.
Okay, fantastic. I like it. I like it. It's something different.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks everyone for joining. If you have questions, apologies also for being a little bit late as well. Technical issues my end. If you have questions for Rob, Ben, and myself, please put them in the comments, and we will try to answer some of those a little later on or as we go along. If you don't already follow Rob and Ben, then you can find links in the description where you'll find their excellent channels, and I highly recommend that you do follow them. Yeah, we're going to kick off. We've got a lot to talk about today. Anyone who has checked the charts or their portfolio will probably have a few questions. So let's start with the glaring one, because I'm seeing this question a lot, and I want to get your guys' opinion on it. Is it over? Is the top in? And Ben, an extra question for you. When can we say it's over for sure from a technical standpoint? But we can come to that later. But Rob, can I start with you on this one first? This is a difficult one, I know, but I just want to get your kind of gut feelings on this, how you're feeling about it. Is it over? Was 126K in around there? Was that the top for Bitcoin?
I mean, anything's possible, right? I mean, we've talked a lot about this, and I know that people, if you look at the sentiment on X right now, it's either, I'm just waiting for one or two things to happen based on sentiment. Either we're going to go to zero, which, okay, or we're going to go to 200K. So it's like one of those two things, and there's like no in between. But if we just take a step back and just think to ourselves, have we seen this before? Well, we saw this again in 2021 when we had a couple of double tops, and it wasn't that much of a big move, but there was a lot of monetary policy going on in the background. So until we get into it where Jerome Powell is like, you know what, it's time to start raising rates and quantitative tightening, okay, here we go again. But if we can just let it all play out, then maybe we'll see some good news coming into November, December. Remember, everything happens in Q4 like as before, but I know people say that doesn't matter because everything's different now. Is it really that much different? So I'll just say like this. If it happens in Q4 like it has every single time, fantastic. However, if we do get expanded out, like let's say a Q1, Q2, and we take a look at monetary policy and fiscal policy. Well, those two things are up in the air, and especially with what's going on with tariffs. If we can settle that, and then we get monetary policy, and Jerome Powell is doing his, I guess, best to do what he can, but once he's out, you know, here's a new guy that comes in that will probably be appointed by Trump. If that happens, you're looking at Q2, I think Jerome's out at around that time. And then we see something that we've never seen before. Maybe we have an extended cycle. If that's what it is, I can see Q1. I'm not panicking right now. But everybody else, not everybody else, I think the people who haven't been here that long are panicking. And the ones that have been here for quite some time are like, let's see what happens.
Yeah. And Rob, before I get Ben's take on this, you know, as someone who's been doing this for a while, and as someone who's seen, you know, other cycles in other markets, like in the context of what's happened over the past couple of days, as in, we had a rate cut from the Fed. Okay, it was expected, and okay, Powell was pretty hawkish about the next one, but we still got the expected rate cut. We've also had what seems to be very positive news coming out of the Trump Xi talks, you know, on trade, and obviously, you know, this trade war, which has been the big, has been the big thing looming over the markets, and then you've even got like positive announcements for particular crypto projects. I mean, I'm thinking of, like, for instance, Western Union partnering with Solana just in the last couple of days, which, as many people have pointed out, is the sort of announcement that would have sent Sol absolutely bananas in 2021. So are you kind of, you know, are you surprised that this supposedly positive news just isn't landing, isn't affecting the charts? Or is it just, are we going to need more than that, more than just a few bits of good news, much of which is expected to kind of get things going again?
I will say, in bear markets, you could have the most positive news of all time. What happens to the markets? So if you take a look at that and say, well, are we in another sector? Maybe we are. But I just, again, I'll stick to it and say, well, we'll see what happens. We got a long ways to go, but it's all up in the air. I'm just not panicking, because if you were doing what you were supposed to be doing, which I think most of everybody here is, you were supposed to be buying in the bear. And as that time has come, you were supposed to be taking profits along the way. And if you're really stressed out, look at your portfolio. I mean, I can't tell you what to invest into. I just can't. I can just tell you where I think things are going, and then let the chips fall where they may. We've got some more runway, and I think it'll be just fine.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that, Rob. Ben, can I direct the same question to you? Are you feeling that we've topped? Is the top in? Is it over? And also, that other question that I asked of you, what, from a technical standpoint, would say that it's over for sure?
I mean, I think we have to go back and look at kind of the last time the Fed ended QT, because I've talked about that for the last few years, and now that it's happening, like, there's some reason to talk about it. Obviously, with QT ending in December, like, I would say there's a reasonable chance that Bitcoin dominance tops in December. That seems like a reasonable take to me. Like, that's been my story for the last 4 years, so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I think that last cycle, when the Fed ended QT, Bitcoin's top had occurred a few months before. So naturally, it makes us wonder, like, okay, well, if they end QT in December, does that mean the top is already in? There's absolutely a chance that it is. If you measure it from the ROI from the low, it kind of lines up. But there's some caveats to it, right? Like, we haven't seen these technical breakdowns yet. I would also say, in 2019, when the Fed started cutting rates, the top was also in. But this cycle, when the Fed started cutting rates, the top was not in, right? The Fed started cutting rates in 2024, and then Bitcoin went higher even into 2025. So just because QT is ending doesn't mean that the top has to already be in. We maybe have to unpack why the Fed ended QT in 2019 versus why they're ending it in 2025. There's some similarities, but there's also some differences. The similarities are that money market accounts, like just liquidity, there was some stresses in money market accounts back in 2019 and in 2025, which is the main underlying reason I think they are ending quantitative tightening. Back then, inflation was a lot weaker. Inflation was below 2%. I think it was 1.7%. And so it's not the same thing, right? In the sense, because now inflation's trending up. You could argue that they more so risk reigniting animal spirits now, because if what Jerome Powell is saying is accurate, and what he is saying is that these are risk management cuts, and if they're risk management cuts, then perhaps it's balance sheet risk management for ending QT. Now, if all that's true, and we don't actually need to end any of it, and we should be maybe at higher rates, then you could argue that it might rekindle animal spirits just when everyone's given up, So I do think there are some differences in why the Fed's ending QT this time than why they did last time. This time, it seems to be a little bit more proactive. Last time, it was more reactive to some spikes, I think, in reverse repo and whatnot, in the overnight, the repurchasing agreement stuff. So I think that there are some differences as to why I think in 2019 it was more reactionary. In 2025, it's a little bit more, they're trying to get ahead of it, right? It's more proactive than anything else. But at the end of the day, I think all three of us have always had Q4 of 2025 as a potential top in our mind, right? It's hard not to, because we saw it in 2021, we saw it in 2017, and we saw it in 2013. Q4 of every post-election year, post-halving year, is the top. So I'm operating under the assumption that the top will be this quarter. The only question is is it ahead of us or is it not? The way I'm basing it is I'm just looking at these weekly closes and saying, look, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is what needs to happen. Maybe I just need to capitulate and for the market to go up. Maybe we're all part of the market, But I would say for me personally, if I were to see like 2 weekly closes below 100K, I'd probably just, I'll see you guys next year, type thing. Also, by the way, in 2019, when the Fed ended QT, August was technically the last month of ongoing QT. You don't notice it in the charts until September, because it took until September for them to start expanding the balance sheet. But back then, while Bitcoin had topped, it didn't really break down until after QT was over, right? Until after all that happened. So maybe that's the way to play it. Like I guess it's always possible that at any moment Bitcoin could just go below 100K and start to test those resolves. But if we're sitting here and it's mid-December and we're still not breaking up to the upside, then I think you just kind of have to bite the bullet and say, all right, like we're probably going to go down for a little while. The good news is, if you ignore the pandemic aspect of the 2019 drop after QT ended, the good news is that if you don't have euphoria, which we don't have, then you would expect a bear market like 2019 to be a lot more, bearable, right? Like it probably wouldn't be as difficult as what we saw in, say, like 2018 or something. Because again, the really bad bear markets happen from low Bitcoin dominance levels, not high Bitcoin dominance levels. So what I'm hoping to see Bitcoin dominance continue to go up. And actually the way I could see it playing out, I think, is maybe it was either one of you, it was Rob that maybe said it. I can't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I could see there being a top in Q4 and then kind of trending down for the first half of 2026. And then they replace Jerome Powell at the Fed. They lower rates even more. They turn the money printers back on. And then maybe that starts to rekindle things as we go into 2027 and 2028. The funny thing is, like, we can all see a scenario here where we jump through hoops to figure out what's going to happen. And then the 4-year cycle just repeats itself perfectly every single time.
Very true. Very true. Chaps, there was some very good perspective there from both of you. Thank you. I think that sort of perspective is really needed at a time like this, because I sense just people's sentiment really is so low, and people are kind of fed up, and it's really useful to hear from guys like you, who such great analysis, and also who've seen this before. I think that's really useful for people. So thank you. All right, let's talk about a market that is doing quite well at the moment, and that is the stock market. So the S&P, the Nasdaq they just keep climbing and climbing. Nvidia is just going absolutely gangbusters. I think it was a recent now $5 trillion valuation. So I want to get both of your thoughts on the stock market now, and also the big question that I'm seeing talked about everywhere: are we in an AI bubble? So Rob, do you want to? Can I ask you that one first?
Yeah, sure. The AI bubble. There's always a bubble, right? We take a look at the housing market. That was a bubble, but then it kind of comes back. Then the bigger one, I think everybody compares this to, is the .com bubble, and it comes down to which one's going to be the winner. Like in the .com era, everybody remembers pets.com and how it was supposed to be, and how these sites popped up and they were supposed to be the future, and they just weren't. And I think it's the same thing with AI. We're just trying to shuffle to see which one's the winner is. And then once we know, is it going to be OpenAI? Is it going to be Elon Musk? Is it going to be DeepThink in China? We don't really know which one it is. So people are hedging their bets and putting it all over the place. I think it's like the same thing of like digital assets and crypto. I think we had our speculative time, but I think you're seeing the winners emerging on who they are. I think we're going to get this question later. So right now, with like as it being a bubble for AI, I don't know if it's close to popping. I think there's a longer way to go, and I think you're going to see it drag out, especially as we get into. I mean, let's say we get some kind of quantitative easing and we get money printing. What does that mean then? And then as the rates drop for businesses to take out loans, then they're just going to reinvest it, and we're going to have an even bigger cycle. But the big thing is, once that happens, you can't just go up like this and not expect it to do this. The higher and the more arch of the trajectory for things to go up, it'll crash down magnificently. And we saw it in the .com era, and we saw it in the Great Recession for the housing market. So I still think you have time. And like Paul Tudor Jones says, put on your dancing shoes, because at some point you got to get out of there. But I think there's a lot of places. And then, hey, Guy, have you seen this? I'm going to share this with everybody real quick. This graph as to how the money is moving around and how things are really ascending as far as price action for these different companies, because they're all kind of like I can't say the word, but it's like when you put, yeah, that's it. And then you just invest here and invest there, and then take the money and invest there, and then all of a sudden the valuations go up, and everybody's like, this is the greatest thing of all time. But it can't be. It's just like digital assets. We can't have 2 million altcoins. It's going to be like 6, and that's just how it's going to be. So until that bubble bursts, have fun out there. I'll just stick with Nvidia for right now and see how things roll out.
Yeah. And Ben, same question to you, but building on it as well. I mean, Rob quite rightly, I think, draws the comparison with the .com bubble as well. And I was thinking about this earlier, and I was sort of wondering, like, is this comparable? Because was there a sense in the .com bubble that perhaps, everyone was kind of very excited about the internet, and kind of, a lot of people saw it had potential. But was there still not a sense, a sense of doubt among a lot of people that it would actually be a thing? Because I seem to remember, like, obviously I was quite a lot younger then, but I do seem to remember, and I've seen a lot of headlines, since that, a lot of people genuinely didn't think that the internet was ever going to come to anything. Whereas I kind of feel that this time around, everyone kind of knows that AI is going to be big. And it's because it already is. Like, okay, we've got all these, we've got chatbots and whatever, and a lot of people are kind of getting a bit disillusioned with them. But we do know, I think we can be fairly sure that AI is the future. It's just, it's just the extent to which it is. I mean, do you agree with that, or do you think this is kind of really literally the .com bubble all over again?
I mean, it might be a bigger version of the .com bubble for all we know. I mean, I think AI is absolutely the future. I mean, absolutely, right? Like, I already use it like every day, like I use it to make thumbnails for my videos, right? And that's why my thumbnails went from 7th grade PowerPoint presentation thumbnails to something that actually looks somewhat okay. I also use it to like look things up, right? Like I've started using it in replace of Google sometimes, right? Like just because I mean, now Google also has, sort of AI implemented into it, and I'll use that as well. But like, it's easy just to, to pull up an instance of, whatever AI tool you want to use. And you can just kind of like teach yourself stuff by asking it to do certain things. And, even I think one of the people that does the whole, with the coding, they're like, oh, by December of this year, everyone can just vibe code video games. Like, imagine just being able to do that type of stuff without, and imagine what it'll be like in a few years. So absolutely, AI is the future, right? Because it makes us more productive, right? Now, obviously, it's going to lead to the destruction of certain jobs, but it also could very well lead to the creation of new jobs, just like the .com era led to the destruction of a lot of jobs with the introduction of various things, just like with computers, right? You had spreadsheets and whatnot, but just because it killed off certain jobs, new jobs came along eventually. So yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities. If you want to share my screen really quick, I've actually been following this for a little while, and I will be clear, like, I don't actually expect this fractal to play out forever. And it might play out to the like it might outperform the .com era. If you look at like price to earnings for companies, they're not as elevated as they were back in 2000, right? They're not. So while this is the S&P divided by the money supply, that is the same as it was back in 1999. Like, that's the same. But the companies are like they're making more money now. Like they're doing better now than they were back then. That doesn't mean you won't eventually have a meltdown, right? Like you probably will eventually have one. And what I've been looking at is just kind of comparing this move from 1996, this entire move. If you take this 1996 and you put it on 2022, I mean, even that 20% drop we had in March and April lines up almost perfectly, almost perfectly right here, all the way down that 20% drop. Now we're kind of like up here in, like in getting in like late 2025. If this continues to play out, what it would do is you would get a correction soon, about 5 to 6% correction, which would actually correspond to what happened last cycle. Because when last cycle the Fed announced an end to quantitative tightening, they announced it, I believe, in July of 2019. So if you go look at July of 2019, we had about a 5 to 6% correction right there. So let's say that this plays out in a similar way. You could get a 5% correction. Everyone thinks it's over, right? We all lick our wounds and we go fishing or go play chess, you do something else. And then maybe before you know it, we're right back at a new all-time high again, And this could correspond to like an early 2026 high. Then you get a deeper correction into mid 2026, which is likely when crypto would be dropping, maybe around 50% or so. And then perhaps Jerome Powell is replaced and they turn the printers on, they lower interest rates, and then you get an even bigger rally, by stocks to all-time highs once again. And again, I mean, like, just because I think crypto isn't going to do that well in 2026 doesn't mean stocks can't. I mean, stocks went up in 2014 while crypto went down 80%. In 2018, stocks were mostly sideways while Bitcoin dropped a lot. But I do think like these charts are a humbling reminder that don't be the guy constantly trying to call the top, because you will make a fool of yourself, right? You will. And the other thing to remember too is that topping is a process, not a single event. And so what you would look for is you would look for the price to only go marginally higher for like 6 to 12 months, right? Where like we keep trying to go higher, but it just keeps not happening, or it only marginally happens. And then that's what eventually ends the bubbles, where people keep trying and trying and trying. Prices don't go anywhere. So the people just end up capitulating, right? Well, I'm just going to sell it. And then we end up, getting these big corrections. But in this case, if it were to continue to line up, I mean, we could still potentially be in business even into 2027 in terms of the AI. There's still a lot of tailwinds for AI. I mean, there's still, you could argue that the tailwinds still exist. They're still making, fairly decent, they're making still fairly decent progress with things. I mean, it seems like every few months, like we're seeing some major new advancement that everyone then quickly goes to figure out how they can use it to sort of build a business or make their life better. That's likely going to continue for a while. So I do think we are potentially getting into bubble territory here, but that doesn't mean it can't go higher, right? I mean, I've kind of been under the assumption we will have a slight drop in the stock market, but I've been thinking that for a few weeks and we haven't got it. So, I don't know. I'm just I'm a slave to the markets, just like everyone else. But it's just a reminder that if it does end up, if we are in a bubble and we are forming a top, it should take place over like a year, where the market's just really not moving. So that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think definitely there is. I think that's a really wise thing you say, Ben, about trying to call the top. It really is a fool's errand. And I mean, I guess a bullish outlook generally tends to pay off better than a bearish outlook, at least in the long term. And because
that's why the common saying is the bears sound smart, the bulls make money.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's follow this up. Let's because I wanted to ask as well, if we are indeed in a bubble and we get a market collapse, and this is for AI I'm talking about here. If the AI bubble bursts and the stock markets take a hit, what do you think that will mean for the likes of Bitcoin and crypto more broadly? Will they sort of do what they've been doing recently and just collapse along with everything else? Or are we likely to see a rotation? Might we see a rotation from gold to BTC? Might we see large cap stocks into small caps? How do you see that a potential AI bubble burst playing out in the crypto market? Rob, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it comes down to why did the AI bubble burst? Was it because there was something that was going on in the AI market that made that happen, or just become too frothy, or was it something that had to happen with the economy, meaning that we have inflation starting to go out of control, and Jerome Powell doesn't want to cut rates anymore, and he actually wants to raise rates? Then it doesn't matter what it really happens with AI, traditional markets, or crypto; they will all go down. So I think we'd have to look at there. But if there's just, I know there's a great theory going around about rotation of capital from gold into Bitcoin, or gold into more stable, maybe then more Bitcoin, which some people might say it's a risk on asset, some people say it's a risk off asset. But I mean, it really just comes down to why are these things collapsing, and you have to look at that. So I can't really answer that on any proficient level.
Fair enough. Ben, anything to add on that? How do you see a potential AI stock market crash playing out in the crypto market?
I was at a conference this past weekend, and there were some people there that are very much plugged into all sorts of markets, right? Like just everything you can think of, right? Including AI, including real estate, including everything, equity, credit. The general consensus is that like if you're sitting around hoping for the AI bubble to burst so that your asset class can then do well, you're probably not going to be happy, because it's all intertwined. Like there's a lot of stuff intertwined at this point, a lot of stuff downstream, a lot of companies that rely on AI. And a lot of people that are just kind of relying on this to continue, like making things more efficient and whatnot. I think whenever the AI bubble bursts, which again could be, it could be years from now for all we know. Like we don't know. And given the fact that they're going to replace Powell next year and probably put in someone who's a lot more dovish, like I feel like I kind of have to believe that they're going to try to rekindle the animal spirits. Like they're not going to go down without a fight. So yeah, I think whenever it does burst, it's going to bring everything down with it, right? Like there's not going to be a safe haven other than just sitting in cash. And for the last few years, we've been in an environment where, if you've only been sitting in cash, and you've been earning 4 to 5%, like maybe you feel okay earning 4 to 5%, but you watch other things like gold just screaming higher, and the stock market screaming higher. So like once we, and we kind of get to the point where then no one wants to sit in cash because they're all just watching the market go up without them. So like once we get to the point where like literally everyone is in the market, and the idea of owning cash is absurd, that's usually when the bubbles actually start to pop. Like when literally everyone is in and there's no other reasons to remain bullish, right? Once QT is over and QE is ongoing, once interest rates have come down as far as they realistically can under a new Fed chair, like once all that has happened and there's no reason to continue to remain optimistic about some event in the future, that's usually when things come back down. So I would say that like if we are in a bubble and it does pop, it's not going to be good for anything. Like there's not, it's not going to be good unless you're just sitting in cash, right? So like I wouldn't really assume there's going to be a big, like if AI stocks are crashing, I don't think it's going to simultaneously correspond to like altcoins rallying. It likely, and in fact it would almost be the opposite, right? You could argue that cryptocurrency would be the first to start falling, and because it's further up the risk curve, so it'll sell off first. And it'll give the signal first, and then after altcoins are falling and whatnot, then Bitcoin would start falling, and then after Bitcoin falls, then stocks start to fall, right? So it kind of works its way down the risk curve. So I think that's kind of how you think about it. And for now, I know it doesn't feel like it, but essentially everything's at all-time highs, right? Gold's basically at all. Not now. Not technically, like they're not at all-time highs, but they've like most everything has put in an all-time high this month, right? Stocks have put in an all-time high this month. Bitcoin's put in an all-time high this month, and the S&P has put in an all-time high this month. So again, like every time we've had this conversation for how many years, like we're still We still keep seeing new all-time highs. So until you start seeing something different, layoffs are not going to pick up to the point where it becomes super problematic. But once those prices start to drop, then that leads to layoffs, and that leads to this negative feedback loop.
Yeah. And you know what, real quick, you know what hasn't made any all-time highs that I know of is 99% of the altcoins. And I think that's why, like, the sentiment, I'm sorry.
Rob, are you talking
my
about
altcoins?
No, because I'm talking about the 1% that you guys invested in. So the 99%, that's why I think the sentiment is so low everywhere you go. And I think it's because a lot of people, they put way too much into alts because they think, well, it ran 2021, it's going to run again. So can we all just agree today just to drop the charade that of altcoins? And if we do go sideways, or we have a low point, at some point we're going to have a big rally. Can we just all agree that we should probably be buying maybe a little bit more Bitcoin, maybe not so much Filecoin of my entire paycheck, but just put a little bit more into Bitcoin? Again, I can't tell you what to do. I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm just saying maybe that might help.
Guy, does this guy ever stop talking about Bitcoin dominance?
I know. He's like a stuck record, isn't he?
I know. I got to do another 2-hour video pretty soon.
You know, in 2019, when Bitcoin put in one final high, it was when everyone basically collectively decided to trade their altcoins to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin dominance went to 70%.
So, self-fulfilling prophecy by Benjamin Cowan.
Rob is preaching the message, and he's trying to pawn it off on me.
Well, I think the important takeaway, especially picking up on what you were talking about earlier, Ben, we don't know when the top is coming for AI. We don't know when the bubble's going to burst. And if you're just holding cash, if you've just been holding cash over the last few years, then you've lost out. But I think what that says to me is that probably the best way to play this sort of market is to have some portion of your portfolio in cash anyway, which I think is what a lot of professional investors would recommend, either for, just for a rainy day, or, if you have a big expense to cover or whatever, or, to buy the dip if everything does suddenly go south. But I think, as we can't predict the future, probably having cash, if you think of your portfolios, maybe X amount real estate, X amount crypto, X amount stocks, bonds, whatever, cash should be, you should have at least some cash on hand. And that, that's the best way that you can sort of play the cards without, being able to see them, so to speak.
Yeah, well said. I think you have to. It's just difficult to do. And I think everybody's been buying dips, and they're all dipped out. Yeah, very true. Okay, I want to circle back to crypto a bit more, because I think, as we were saying, there's been a lot of bullish news really for the crypto industry recently, and we are seeing some genuinely useful crypto projects out there. So I'm interested to see what you guys think. Are there any crypto use cases that you think have good product market fit that we maybe haven't seen much of yet? Are there any other, are there any particular problems that you think crypto is going to be able to solve, and maybe we haven't seen enough kind of focus on that? Or, just what are the what are the examples of crypto with product market fit that you've been sort of most impressed with? Rob, do you want to lead off with this one? Yeah, I will say, like, I've been talking about this for quite some time, and Guy, I always give credit to you because you're the first one to say it. And the killer app for crypto is going to be payments. And when you said that, it's got to be over a year now. If you just take a look at, I call them the best chains that are for stablecoins, USDC and Tether, which is 93% of the market. And the best is just an acronym, and it's BNB, Ethereum, Solana, and Tron. And when you look at the volume for those, it really takes off. And I think this is why they've done so well, because there is an immediate use case for payments. And if you just have to take a look at remittance and just pay anybody, that's what it is. It's the same thing with artificial intelligence. You can see there's an absolute use case the first time you use it. And it's the same thing with Bitcoin if you want to think that it's actually a store of value, or if it's a peer-to-peer transaction. So I think these things are the ones that are really going to push us forward. But if I had to answer your question, though, which is, what else out there that we really haven't taken too much of a look at. AWS, or Amazon Web Service, just crashed a second time yesterday. And we saw a bunch of websites go down and a bunch of Web3 projects go down. If you were looking to combine that AI part, storage part, because we need massive amount of storage, you would take a look at like the projects that are like Filecoin and Arweave, which are decentralized storage capacity and something like that. So, I mean, that would solve an issue. I could see that. I don't own any Filecoin or Arweave. I've got a lot of other altcoins, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately later. But yeah, you can take a look at that.
Yeah. I think, I didn't hear, I don't feel like I heard enough around those AWS outages, either in the kind of crypto space, but especially sort of, beyond that. I don't think I heard enough sort of talk about, like, everyone knows this is a problem. Everyone knows, like, things being centralized on AWS and a handful of other, providers is such a danger, and if we get a prolonged outage, that is catastrophic, isn't it? It's catastrophic, for society in general, not just the economy. But you do kind of wonder, a prolonged internet outage, what happens, on day 3 of that? Because I know people who'd go absolutely insane without being able to access the internet. But I just don't remember hearing much talk about that, and I kind of felt, well, this is one of those problems that there are crypto projects trying to solve.
Yeah, and then real world problems, which would be like, if you need all that storage space and that compute, you need a big plot of land. And if you have land that Amazon wants, they're going to pay a pretty penny for it. And you know who did that to a T perfectly? Paul Barone from the Paul Barone Network. We were talking right outside Ben's party, and we were talking about how they had purchased property and Amazon was looking to purchase it. And I was like, hats off to you. That's pretty good. So real estate, land can work out. Depends on who the buyer is.
Nice. Ben, what about you? Are there any particular areas that you think crypto has sort of yet to solve problems in? Do you agree? Do you feel that there are objectively useful crypto projects out there, or should we have just stuck to Bitcoin all along?
Yeah, I think this cycle I haven't spent a lot of time thinking too much about altcoins. So I wouldn't even really be like the best person to ask. Like, there could be, maybe there is possible an altcoin would have cured cancer, and I have no idea because I just haven't looked into it. One of the reasons why is because, think about a business. The business can control what goes on in its 4 walls. Like, between, inside the 4 walls, it can control what's going on, but it cannot control what's going on outside those 4 walls. And so it cannot control sort of the macro environment, right? And so some businesses fail not because their product isn't great, or whatever reason. There's other things going on in the world that just makes it's a bad time. It's just not good timing. The same thing is it could be said with crypto, right? If you are, if an altcoin, any altcoin over the last few years has been facing such an uphill battle when valued against Bitcoin due to monetary policy, right? Due to quantitative tightening, due to higher rates. So I wouldn't even know, because I haven't cared, because I've generally just been under the assumption that it doesn't matter what they're doing. They're mostly going to bleed to Bitcoin. And a few have not, right? If you have done pretty well, and you could have outperformed Bitcoin on a few of those. But yeah, I haven't really spent that much time doing it, so I don't really have a great answer for you. The reality is one of the best use cases for 99.999% of altcoins is just using them to stack more sats. Trading them and making money on euphoria and making money on that, and then just buying more Bitcoin with it. That is the best use case. What's funny is that some altcoin projects at some point or another have gone on to use some of their treasury funds to buy Bitcoin. It's even it's like an acknowledgement that the best thing they could do is just buy Bitcoin. It's happened, I'm right, we've seen projects do that. So,
sure.
I don't know. Obviously I'm coming at it from more of the maxi point of view. But I do think, you know, the longer you are in crypto, you do tend to more just gravitate towards Bitcoin because it's easier. You sleep better at night, and it's the only long-term play. It's the only long-term play. Everything else is short-term play. I mean, look at Ethereum. As much as I've liked Ethereum since April, it still is at the same price it was at 4 years ago. XRP, as great as it's been since late last year, it's still at the same price it was at in 2017. Litecoin is at 1/3 of the price it was at in 2017. You know, like a lot of these projects, like they're just not like they're not long-term holds. They're good short-term holds for certain narratives, for certain situations, but they're just not good long-term, and they just bleed. Again, we saw, what was it, Cosmos, Atom, literally go to zero basically on some of the exchanges. I mean, it literally went to zero. Think about how many people would have gotten wiped out on that wick, and then it went right back up to the price it was at. So it's tough. I think it's tough for like a serious long-term investor to hold altcoins long-term. I do think, like, I actually do think there is some hope at some point that the asset class, you know, could start to innovate in a way that has been different from prior cycles. But I mean, like, we've been around, how many cycles have we been here? And it just seems like most projects are just, the founders are just in it to make a quick buck, you know, to pay some influencers to shill it, to dump their bags, and to go start a new project and get everyone to cheer them on in that. It's tough. It's really tough as an investor to be that interested, I think, in a lot of different altcoins. I think what you do is you stick with Bitcoin, you maybe get a little Ethereum, and if you want the thrill of the altcoin market, you pick out an altcoin. But honestly, in 10 years, there's a good chance that Bitcoin would have outperformed every other cryptocurrency, you know? So it's tough play. Just remember, altcoins are not long-term trades. They're short-term trades, because usually what people do is they make a lot of money and then they round trip everything in the bear market.
Yes, I think there are plenty of us who can attest to that. Okay, thanks, Ben. Wise words as ever. I just want to ask you guys one more question before we go to the audience and then sign off. What is your biggest crypto ick? What are the cringe things that people say that make you wince and disavow the whole industry and just wish you'd stuck with chess or real estate or nuclear physics or whatever it may be? Rob, is there anything that particularly gets your goat?
There's just this like this constant pressure. Ben said it. Bulls or bears sound smart, bulls get rich, right? So like you'll see it on YouTube, and you'll see it on X, and you'll see it on everywhere, which is there'll be a thumbnail and a title, and it's always like, it's going to explode. This is going to be the next big thing. They just released the bulls, and it's just like constant. Like, this is going to be the best thing of ever. And it's just kind of like, it's just, this is why people have that meme coming around, which is like, I'm tired, boss. I think that's what people are tired of. There's no like reality. Like, hey, you can only get so high on hopium before you have to come down to reality. So yeah. That's one of the things that gets me, because I'm just like, you know, you're setting these guys up for failure unless you don't tell them the whole story. Yeah, that's it.
That's essentially.
Sorry.
I thought that was you ventriloquizing there, Ben. I can talk without moving my mouth there. Yeah, are there any particular crypto icks that you have, other than Litecoin?
I have a few. I've really, yeah, I don't like it when people in crypto, like especially influencers, I don't like it when they do like paid promotions, like for altcoins, where they're shilling them, where they don't disclose that they are. I really hate that, because what happens is, like, I get solicited probably 5 to 10 times a day to shill some shitcoin, you know, a day. And I always just ignore them. I usually just block the person asking. And then about 5 days later, I will see 10 accounts on Twitter shilling it. And usually they're like, oh yeah, it's all season, you know, like, you know, this altcoin's gonna go to the moon. This is like the next low cap gem. And you look at their description, nowhere can you find that it's a paid promotion. Yeah. And they're usually, you know, dunking on Bitcoin dominance and all this other stuff, but you can't find that they're incentivized. They're being paid to tell you their opinion. It's not their opinion. It's the company that is making that cryptocurrency. It's that company's opinion. They want to sell that to people. So I really hate that. I don't think I'm not saying it's a bad thing to take paid promotions. Like, I mean, you know, people gotta earn their money. If you're gonna devote your entire life to YouTube, it's okay to have sponsors. Like, it's okay to have sponsors, but you have to disclose it. And people could take more credible sponsors, like more, you know, better sponsors than they do, instead of just taking these allocations and these meme coins and then dumping them. So that's one big thing I really don't like. I also, you know, I also think too, like, there's this like mentality in crypto where like it can be very like cult-like, you know, where like certain people buy certain altcoins and other people buy other altcoins. They just go at each other's throats constantly, you know, about like which one's better. And the reality is they're both pretty much shit coins, you know. But like but both sides try to convince why the other one is wrong. That I find frustrating. I also think that in general, you know, there is a lot of pressure on influencers to know what's going to happen in the market, right? And the reality is no one knows. Like, we're all just up here guessing. Like, I don't know where the market's going to go. I have a website with thousands of charts on it, and I'll still tell you the best thing most people can do is just DCA into Bitcoin and crypto and just go live their life, right? Like, and that's the reality with stocks as well. Like, think about how many hedge funds exist that want you that think about how many funds exist that basically want you to put your money in their fund so that they can go underperform the S&P 500 and charge you for it, right? Like, they want to convince you that there's something more to it, right? They want to convince you because that's the way that they get rich. But I think people have to be honest. Like, this entire cycle, I've dealt with people, you know, telling me why just buying Bitcoin was the wrong strategy, and why you should buy these diversified basket of altcoins. And it's like, no, like Bitcoin was kind of the best thing to do. So I do think that, you know, I think one way the asset class can mature is with what Rob said, right? You know, he's been carrying this Bitcoin dominance torch for the last 4 years. Do exactly what Rob said. You know, find the common ground between all of us, right? And the common ground between everyone in crypto is Bitcoin, right? That's the common ground. So I think that's how the asset class matures. We focus on what matters. We get rid of all the stuff. We reject all the meme coin stuff. We reject it and say it's not valuable. It's not the future. And if we can actually do that, if we can reject meme coins and stop pretending like they have value, then it might actually open the door for developers to actually want to try to innovate in the space. Yeah. Right? What incentive is there to innovate if some guy can launch a meme coin next Tuesday and outperform some developer who's been building something for 4 years? Right? There's no incentive. So if we can fix this investment of capital, I think that could go a long way. So I mean, all that stuff bothers me. But again, the only way to fix it is with time. Is the only way you're going to fix it. There's nothing anyone can do. It's got to play out. There's no one can do a damn thing to stop it. Time, and people got to keep getting wrecked. That's what will be the biggest teacher.
Yeah, very true. The hard lessons. I still think that perhaps the best tweet of this cycle so far has been from Gwart, when he said something along the lines of, people are going to look back in a few years at all us crypto folk and wonder how it was we all just lost our minds and formed all these mad communities around what is basically back office software. I don't think anyone has put it better than that. And you know, because it is great that people get into this stuff and that people care. You know, I think we should state that. You know, it's great that people care and that they're passionate, but it does get to the point where, you know, derangement kicks in, and you see this with a lot of communities and stuff. And I think I'm right with you on that one, Ben, as well. It's like, it's great to be interested, it's great to care, but there is definitely a limit, and beyond that limit, it's just madness. And I think that, you know, that whole sort of derangement, it does hold the space back, because it just becomes, a shouting match. And I think so many people looking in on crypto, and the thing that bothers me most, or the thing that I think crypto has really struggled with this cycle, one of the many things, is its reputation. And I just don't think that kind of stuff really helps the reputation at all, because I think you have people looking from the outside in going, those guys are batshit crazy. They're insane. I don't think it helps at all.
No, well said. I have to agree.
There we are. Okay, we are near the top of the hour, so I'm going to let you guys go. Would it be okay if I did a completely shameless shill at this point? Would you guys object?
Everybody,
by all means, let's plug all the altcoins.
Yeah, so I want to talk about a few altcoins. Now, I actually want to talk about our new channel that we've just launched. This is Coin Bureau Finance. Now, I know what you folks are thinking. You're thinking that we are just pivoting away from crypto and just talking about macro stuff. Now, that is not true. We are still doing crypto stuff on this channel, on More Coin Bureau, and also on our main channel, of course. But for anyone watching, you'll know that we've been doing kind of macro finance, geopolitical focused content on our main channel as well for a long time. And we just thought it would be easier and cleaner if we put that stuff on its own channel. So if you guys like that sort of content, then please do follow us over on Coin Bureau Finance. It's the same 3 devastatingly handsome presenters, and it's just basically everything non-crypto related. But we are of course going to be continue bringing you the crypto content that you know and hopefully love as well. So yes, apologies for the absolutely shameless plug, but I thought I could get away with it. And can I just point out as well, I think this is a live viewers record. Certainly when it might be higher on your guys' channel, but we've got over 20,000 people watching now. I don't know whether that's sort of everyone's just watching because it's better than looking at the charts. But that's nonetheless a positive sign. That's great to see.
On YouTube, it says 2,000. Maybe the rest are on Twitter.
Yeah, I think we must be getting a lot from Twitter. Yeah.
If you hover over that number guy in the upper left-hand corner, you can see it'll break it down.
Okay. It's maybe it's because we're streaming it also on our. Oh no, it is X. It is X. Sorry, what am I talking about?
X it is. And then hey, congrats.
The vast majority.
Oh, hey, congrats on the finance channel. I saw that the very first video, I think you guys are over 300,000 views on one video. On the first video on a new channel. That's pretty good.
That was crazy. That was crazy. I was watching that. I was like, is this real? Yeah, that was very strange. We were talking about that. It's like, how has that happened? I think it kind of got picked up by the algorithm. I think like Europe and Europe's sort of struggles and the collapse of the Eurozone, etc., I think is a very hot button issue for a lot of people. So I think it was sort of like, wow, but it was kind of nice to have it vindicated. It's like, oh, maybe we are better off putting macro content on a different channel. But yeah, I mean, cumulatively, that one video has got more views than the last, I don't know, several weeks of our crypto content, which is either good or just massively depressing. I can't figure out which yet. But yes,
it also shows too that like, your success the first time on Coin Bureau wasn't just by luck, because you just created a new channel and made a new video with literally 0 subscribers and it got 300,000 views. So
yeah,
it's honestly, it's like really impressive. I don't know how many channels can say that they can do that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think we've learned a lot over the last few years about how to grow a channel and how to get videos and how the whole game is played. But it's still like a lot of the time you put out a video there and you just think this is so good, people are going to love it, and it just gets nothing at all. I'm pleased to say our uranium video hasn't quite gone as ballistic as that, but that's,
you know why? It's because you didn't use the thumbnail.
The thumbnail.
I know. Yeah. It's all in the thumbnail guy. I can teach you guys a thing or two about thumbnails.
Ben, you're hired. When can you? We'll fly you over to Dubai.
I think what you mean to say is that ChatGPT is hired.
You've given away the secret sauce. Yes, fantastic. So yes, thank you everyone. Thank you for everyone watching today. Thank you to Ben and Rob for your insights. Like I say, I think that sort of perspective is very valuable at a time like this when the market is not looking so hot. Everyone's a bit spooked, and not because of Halloween tomorrow. So gents, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for all your wise words.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks for having us.
A pleasure. And we will be back next week, Guy. Ben's channel, I believe, if you're going to be around, Ben.
Yeah, I should be here.
Fantastic. Okay, we will see you then. Thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to check out Rob's channel, Ben's channel, and Coin Bureau Finance, and we will see you again soon. Bye-bye.